Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the Thousand Suns by the Remembrancer. This was part of the poll that we did originally. A couple other people who have been supporting the channel for a while had asked for certain things. We started it up. Thousand Suns actually won a little later on. Doesn't matter. We're here now. Let's go. There will be some more polls up here soon. There's my puppy's butt. He just walked behind me. Let's get into it. So before we get started, just in case you hear some weird rumbling in the background, that's my pit bull. He's very sleepy right now and snoring his ass off. He sleeps with his whole ass. I don't know what to tell you. Let's get into it.
The warriors of the corpse god believe themselves to be strong, but we have seen a greater truth. Their empire is built upon sinking sand, and they themselves are naught but clay. By Sinch's will, we have been shown power to mold their weak minds and bodies to our own liking. The Legiones Astartes would bear unique burdens for the gifts they would inherit from their gene-sires. Empowered beyond the comprehension of mortal men, each legion would cultivate a speciality for warfare and philosophical foundations befitting their power. Yet among all the Space Marine legions, there exists one above all, whose fall from grace would be heralded by their insatiable hunger for knowledge and mastery of the ethereal. The Magisters of Prospero, the Thousand Suns.
So I do really like their armor. The knowledge part's cool too, obviously. I'm not really big on the whole psyker aspect of them. I know that they want to do like a lot of witchcraft, a lot of stuff like that. That's cool. I've heard that Magnus has done nothing wrong. I don't know the story behind it. I'm halfway through Fulgrim, the audiobook. So we haven't really been introduced to Magnus in that whole story yet, so I don't really know. Things just happened to Ferrus Manus in that book from when I was listening to it yesterday. Anyway, I mean, they're cool. They seem really cool. I really like their armor, like I said. Just not really big on the whole magic thing. I want my Space Marines to be badass warriors, maybe that don't use magic. Maybe that'll change after this. The Remembrancer always does a fantastic job with all of his voice stuff. This dude just, it pulls you right in.
Founded during the Wars of Unification, the Legiones Astartes would encompass a fragment of their gene-father's might, who in turn would contain a fragment of the Master of Mankind's godlike traits. The most powerful psyker to ever grace the stars, the Emperor would create a son molded in his image of warp mastery.
You know, one thing that I was thinking about is, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about the Emperor. I'm assuming when I get like 50 books down in the Horus Heresy, you know, I'll be able to learn some more about him. I've done a little bit of research, just cursory stuff, so I'm not like spoiling anything for myself. That when they get to Terra and do the heresy part, that we get to actually learn more about the Emperor at that point. But it's going to be a long time for me until I get there. Unless I can find some of those books on paperback pretty cheap. I think I actually found some at Barnes & Noble, which is weird. It was on their online store. I'll have to go check it out.
From his creation's genetic materials, a new breed of warriors would be born, gifted as the most powerful psykers among the Space Marine legions. The 15th Legion would be drawn from the most psychically gifted neophytes of the Achaemenid Empire of Holy Terror.
Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. Okay, so I'm playing Tacticus. So I know some people don't like it. I don't put any money into it. like other than I get Google Play, Google Rewards. If you guys don't have that, You should have that, especially if you go a lot of places every day. Me doing service plumbing, I get to drive around my town, and then I do these little reward things, like you can do surveys and whatever and get money. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I think I put like $5 into that from that little rewards thing. It's just fun, but the point I was trying to get to is my guild is called Magnus Did Nothing Wrong. So it's just funny. I just joined whichever guild would take me, and it was like casual play, because that's what I do. But I just thought that was kind of funny. And the 1,000 Suns, there are a legion in there. It's going to take me a while to get there, because they start you off with Ultramarines and like Necrons. I just got the Black Legion, not the whole Legion, obviously, like 3 characters. And plus a Death Guard too. So it's pretty interesting stuff. I like it.
1,000 Astartes would undergo the surgeries within the gene labs of the moon of Luna as warp storms waged across the Sol system. Creating psychic convergences across Terra and its orbiting moon, psychotic outbursts would spontaneously break out across the throne world, to which the psychic spawned madness would prove to be an ill omen for the 15th. With the Legion's inaugural aspirants now raised to the stature of the Astartes, the Emperor would test his promising new Legion by deploying them to bring compliance to the remaining techno-barbarian hordes of Terra. Victorious of their first campaign in the name of the burgeoning Imperium, the Emperor would personally name the Legion as the 1,000 Suns and gift unto them an expeditionary fleet for assimilation into the Great Crusade across the stars. For while the 1,000 Suns had proven their worth in battle, it would not be long until their reunion with their Primarch.
Now this is Magnus the Red, right? That's a picture. Why is he red?
Preceded by only Horus Lupercal and Leman Russ in his reunion with the Master of Mankind, the Crimson King of Prospero would study the Immaterium to better the lot of his homeworld. Emancipating the civilization from the tyranny of warp-spawned creatures that once roamed Prospero's desolate cities, Magnus the Red would bring order, prosperity, and peace to his people. Prospero's capital, Tizca, would be known as the City of Light, as its white marble metropolis housed bountiful tomes of Arcanum, read by a populace poised to understand the intricacies of the universe. Obelisks of glass towered over the self-sufficient paradise, made real by its benevolent ruler, as the Crimson King busied himself with endless journeys into the so-called Great Ocean of the Immaterium. Foreseeing the arrival of the Emperor to Prospero, Magnus would grow to adulthood before his Genefather's reunion. Having communicated for years through means of the warp, the Master of Mankind would arrive upon the utopian City of Light and induct his long-lost progeny into the Imperium. Given command of the 15th Legion, Magnus would look upon his gene sons with pride as they demonstrated their affinity for sorcery and psychic abilities.
Every time I see the horns on him, I'm always thinking about that one picture. That was the horn nipples. Sorry for all the 1,000 Sun boys out there. It was a little suspect picture. I really want to know more about the Emperor. I think we're going to have to do that at some point really soon. Magnus is just, he seems so like cool and out there. I don't know anything about Prospero. This is all new information I'm gaining from this. So as we go, we'll talk a little bit more, but he seems like he'd be pretty cool. Like I said, I'm just not crazy. And maybe this will change my mind with the psyker aspect of it. And maybe it's just because he's a traitor that it's kind of like, But I do want to know why exactly everybody says that he did nothing wrong.
The 1,000 Suns had waged war for 5 Terran Standard years, and through their use of the Immaterium, sought to emulate a fraction of the Emperor's power. Though wary of psychic abilities, the Master of Mankind had allowed the 15th Legion to hone their sorceries as a means to bring swift compliance to the galaxy, much to the chagrin of his stalwart gene-son, Leman Russ
I want
of
to
the
know
6th
more about
Legion.
him for sure, too.
Proclaimed as cowards by the Wolf King, the 15th Legion had been met with scrutiny and distrust by the wider Imperium. Yet with their Primarch now installed as the Master of the Thousand Suns, a glorious future would be promised for their Legion.
So what's the deal with his eye, real quick? So does he only have one? Or does he have multiple? Like, I know some psychers, I've heard some psychers have 3 eyes, or maybe that's the navigators. So does he have 3, or is he just 1, or does he have 2, but one's in a weird place?
Yet fate would not be so kind to the sons of Magnus, for only suffering would be destined for the acolytes of the Immaterium. The lack of restraint demonstrated by the Thousand Suns would bear a fatal cost. Throughout the ranks of the 15th, a warp-born mutation would ravage their numbers, as the so-called flesh change would transform its Astartes into feral spawns of chaos. Interred within stasis pods, in hopes of administering a future cure to their affliction, Magnus the Red would toil for years in hopes of saving his gene-sons from their degenerative affliction.
Oh.
Already at a pandemic scale during their reunion with their Primarch, the Crimson King would watch in horror as the flesh change spiraled into greater numbers with the departure of the Emperor from Prospero. Obtaining a means to stall the flesh change from spreading further, Magnus would consort with duplicitous entities within the Great Ocean. Naive in his assumption that his legion's curse had been absolved, Magnus would resume command of the remaining 1,000 Astartes, left untouched by the mutations of the warp. Once more literal in their reflection of their legion's namesake, the Thousand Suns would seek to draw new recruits to bolster their numbers as they ventured forth to rejoin the Great Crusade. With the Crimson King in command, the 15th Legion would bring untold worlds into compliance through means of diplomacy, trickery, and psychic manipulation. As more sons of the Emperor would be...
And that picture is badass. You didn't... So one thing that I was always curious about, we know Vulcan is a massive man. I know I've never talked about that before with you guys, but he's a big boy. From all the lore and stuff that I've seen, just random pictures, he's a big boy. Look at in the middle there. He looks really tiny. Like whoever that is there. Like some of these guys, there's quite a bit of height difference between all of them. Which obviously, right? Because they're not the same. But they are kind of like, aren't these guys clones of the Emperor in some way or somehow? Or did he just create? I mean, to me, it's kind of weird how they're Primarchs and they're very big. And they're supposed to be bigger than Space Marines, but some of them look real small. And then we get to Horus, and in this picture specifically, he looks like a tank.
Brought into the fold of the Imperium, dissent would grow among the Primarchs as they observed the methods of the Red Cyclops. Scavenging knowledge from their sundered foes, the Thousand Suns' unquenchable thirst for knowledge would rouse further suspicion from their rival legions. Cooperating with the 6th Legion, the Space Wolves, during the Arc Reach cluster campaign, Magnus would despise the route's use of violence and destruction inflicted upon the Avanian populace of Heliosa. Blood would be spilt as the Space Wolves and Thousand Suns would clash as the 15th Legion slew several Fenrisian wolves and incapacitated members of the Vilca Fenrica with psychic manipulation. Hasta of the Pavoni cult would submit to the flesh change during battle and cause several more mutations within the Legion. Leman Russ would intervene, slaying Hastur with a blast of his bolt gun, and would seemingly commit his wolves to battle the Thousand Suns. With the intervention of the Primarch of the 17th Legion, Lorgar Aurelian, further casualties would be prevented.
So I know a lot of people don't like him. Lorgar seems like a asshole, we could say. Just a little bit that I know. I do really, I don't know. He seems cool, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of like, I'm taking this all in. Magnus seems like a good guy so far. right? He's trying to save his legion, his sons, from the flesh change. He's got them in stasis. There's also, like, he's trying to figure it out, trying to save his sons. So that's very admirable for that whole thing. I guess we'll have to just keep going to see where it all took shit, so to speak.
Entered. Yet the Wolf King would never forget his brother's flagrant abuse of his powers, and would swear a blood oath against the Crimson King, promising that one day he would enact a reckoning upon the Thousand Sons. Rumors would spread of the corruptions of the 15th Legion across the Imperium in the wake of the Battle of Heliosa, giving credence to the misgivings of Primarchs Rogel Dawn, Mortarion, and Corvus Corax in their mistrust of Psykers within the legions. A call for censure would reach the Emperor. The most fervent detractors of the Thousand Sons would demand the Legion's expulsion from Imperial history, alike to the 2nd and 11th Legions.
That's serious, huh? They really wanted to expunge the Thousand Sons completely. Also, that's an amazing picture of the Emperor. The artwork for 40k is just outrageously good. I don't get it. Where are all these? What? I mean, there is a severe, like, not even severe, this is a major passion for these people who make this. This is amazing. Like, I'm going to be real with you. 40k is kind of taking my life away. Between this channel, you guys helping me out, trying to learn this stuff because I love it so much. The minis, which I'm kind of painting still, they kind of don't, they're okay. I'm not going to say they're great. I need to give it some more and build an army. Between that, the books. When I'm at work, I listen to the books when I can, when nobody's like talking to me. I have my headphones in, listen to the books while I work. In fact, that's a good way to keep people from talking to me. But yeah, it's so, and the stories are just so enveloping, the characters. I just love this stuff so much. I don't know.
Yet the Master of Mankind would defer to a council to decide the fate of the Psykers of the Legiones Astartes. Convening the Council of Nicaea, the Emperor would invite representatives of each legion with a vested interest in the outcome to state their case in his presence. Magnus the Red would champion his legion's use of the warp, stating its effectiveness in bringing compliance to the stars and future deeds their potential could fulfill. The Primarch of the Death Guard, Mortarion, a survivor of an upbringing subsumed in the abusive excesses of the arcane, would oppose the Crimson King.
Of course he would. He expunged everybody that was a Psyker from his legion. He doesn't like them because he grew up. The only reason I know this is he grew up on a planet that had a necromancer on there, and I know that because of some of the books that I've read and listened to. So, of course, he's not gonna like people like Magnus, but he's also a traitor, so fuck him. Sorry, I'm having like an asthma attack. Yeah, fuck that guy. Plus, Esteban 5, wherever he left all of his Death Guard to die during the beginning of the heresy. Yeah, screw you, buddy. Nobody cares.
Librarian representatives of the White Scars and Space Wolves, Targatai Usugai and Ophir Weirdmake, would fight for their respective allegiances, yet the Emperor's decision would be final. Wary of the unfettered abuse inherent in the manipulations of the warp, the Master of Mankind would draft the Decree of Nicaea and outlaw all use of Psykers within the Legiones Astartes henceforth. Sanctioned Psykers, such as astropaths and navigators, would be exempt from the decree, yet the Librarius of the Space Marines would be disbanded.
That's what the other thing I was kind of wondering. So, these guys were heavily influenced by the warp usage, all that stuff, magic, whatever. And they expunged them, but then these guys really have a very similar vibe to them, like a librarian would, But that's kind of what I was wondering. So did these guys train the librarians, or did the librarians have their own thing? Do they like come off of there? If you guys know, let me know. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. I'm just curious. Because the librarians have a very Thousand Sun vibe because they use so much psyker magic and all that stuff.
Magnus would return to his homeworld, enraged at the misfortune of his legion. Their quest for knowledge had cost them dearly, yet they had always been loyal to the cause of the Emperor, and never strayed from his commands. Yet the woes of the sons of Magnus would only begin with the dawn of the dark days of the Horus heresy. Horus Lupercal, War Master of the Imperium, would be wounded on the planet of Darwin. Ensnared by the malevolent ruinous powers of the Warp, Horus would languish within the tides of the great ocean. Observing the plight of his brother, Magnus would intervene within the Immaterium.
Because, okay, so this was part of the book, and he's going to talk about it more, but Magnus did come to Horus in his death state and talk to him while, was it Uberus? Forget this guy's name. Something like that. Erebus, or damn it. Erebus was trying to lead him astray. So they're going to talk about it, but that was an interesting point of that whole book. Is like right when like the hairs, like he was going to start going to chaos, Magnus did try to stop him
And attempt to steer the War Master from the path to damnation. Heedless of his counsel, Horus would learn of the dystopian future of humanity, wherein the Emperor would be praised as a living deity. Rejecting the imperial truth and assuming the mantle of champion of the ruinous powers, Horus would take his first steps towards his final battle to destroy the Emperor. Magnus would reel from the intervention, desperate to warn the Master of Mankind of the impending betrayal of the Lupercal. Projecting his psychic form to the Imperial Palace, the Crimson King would breach the protective walls of the Emperor's Webway project in order to contact his father.
I'm sure that pissed him
Ruining
off too.
all hope of humanity's use of the ancient Webway for their own means, Magnus would damn the Imperium to forever voyage across the stars within the malevolent tides of the Warp. Furious at his son's heinous actions, the Emperor would dispatch Leman Russ and his Space Wolves to bring the Thousand Sons to Terra for judgment.
Okay, so that's why that happened. Okay.
Assembling a force of custodians and Sisters of Silence,
I really want to know more about both of those guys, the Sisters of Silence and the Custodies. Super interesting. I've heard the word blanks for Sisters of Silence, and then Custodies. I need to know more. They just seem like badasses.
to facilitate their mission. King would revel for the chance to fulfill his blood oath. Yet en route to Prospero, Horus Lupercal would intercept the Emperor's orders and make changes to their intent. The Wolf King would be ignorant of his War Master's betrayal of the Imperium and accept his new orders without objection. The Rout were no longer tasked with the arrest of the Crimson King, their orders now demanding that the Thousand Sons were to be exterminated.
So, is that why Magnus did nothing wrong? Because he was at least trying to stop the heresy? But he kind of screwed things up? It kind of sounds like it. It's very interesting. So, Magnus went in to the warp, trying to contacted his father, screwed some shit up for the Webway project, which would be a very important thing, I'm assuming, right? And now they're going to get exterminated. Like, the Thousand Sons are going to get exterminated for him fucking that whole thing up. I think I have this feeling that the Emperor, he knew and knows a lot more than he's telling everybody. So instead of, him playing secrets, he should be like maybe telling people what's happening, at least a little, like certain characters, certain things, but then we wouldn't have epic wars like we're about to have.
Magnus the Red would foresee the impending doom of Prospero, yet take no action to prevent its passing. The Crimson King now understood his naive manipulations by the Changer of Ways, Tzeentch, and would not allow his legion to become the tools of chaos. Seeking repentance for his actions, Magnus would hide the arrival of the 6th Legion fleet and watch Prospero burn as the Vilca Fenrica razed its marble pyramids and ornate structures to the ground. His people would be slaughtered as the Thousand Sons fought a desperate battle of survival without the aid of their Primarch. Overwhelmed, the first captain of the 15th Legion, Arzek Araman, would beseech his Primarch to intervene. Reluctantly, the Crimson King would join the battle as the Thousand Sons fell back to the final bastion of their once proud City of Light. Leman Russ would confront Magnus and charge into a bloody and infamous duel. The Wolf King's armor would be inscribed with wards against psychic powers, leading to a battle of blades and fists between the Primarchs. As the superior brawler and executioner of the Emperor, Leman Russ would best Magnus in combat and break his spine across his knee.
A Bane Batman moment.
Broken in physical form, Magnus would call upon the powers of the Warp for salvation.
Oh no.
Surrendering to the rule of Tzeentch, Magnus would be empowered by the Changer of Ways and transform into a demon prince of chaos. Teleporting the remnants of Tiska unto a demon world, the Thousand Sons would establish their new home of the planet of sorcerers within the Eye of Terror. The sundered king of Prospero would be shattered into shards of his former might, to which his loyal sons would gather his remnant power to reinstate their lord.
Oh.
Yet one final piece of the Crimson King remained prior to the final battle for humanity's soul, a shard which Magnus would attempt to retrieve from the Throne World during the Siege of Terra. The Thousand Sons' numbers would be greatly diminished to approximately 9,000 Astartes during the opening salvos of the Siege of Terra. Acting as support contingents to their larger and more direct Traitor Legion brethren, Magnus would orchestrate arcane stratagems to coincide with the deployments of the Lord of Iron, Perturabo.
Ooh, Perturabo. So, should we look at them next? I don't know. That's interesting too. Everybody's talked about Perturabo. It's very interesting. I kind of have, now that we're watching this, and the Remembrancer, of course, does a great job, I'm kind of feeling a little bit more that the Thousand Sons, you know, they deserved kind of what they did, but I have sympathy for them for the whole thing, if that makes any sense. Because I get he was trying to do the right thing. He just did it in a shitty way. So I kind of understand. And then his fall to chaos, he didn't want to go there. He didn't want to be there. But now it's there because, what was his name? Because I don't know him very well. The wolf guy. We'll just say wolf guy. Broke his back. And kind of, like, he felt betrayed, so what are you going to do, right? Just, he's going to either surrender and watch his home planet burn, or he's going to do something else. And he did something else. So, it kind of, sombering moment, but it also makes me really think about, you know, that dynamic between father and son, father betraying son, him deciding no more, this is enough, and I'm going to switch. Things are going to be different. Even though he didn't necessarily want them that way. It's just, I love this story. It's just good.
Scheming behind the backs of his Primarch brothers, Magnus would use them as a means to an end in obtaining the final shard of his being. For should he achieve his objective, Magnus would plot to slay the War Master following his duel with the Emperor and assume the mantle of Master of Mankind in his place. Yet such ambitions would be thwarted with the Crimson King's infiltration of the Imperial Palace. Confronted by Malcador the Sigillite, Magnus would learn that the final fragment of his being had been claimed by his loyalist son, Revuel Arvida, now reborn as the being known as Janus. Incapacitating Malcador, Magnus would confront the Emperor upon the Golden Throne, only to be halted by the perpetual Primarch of the Salamanders, Vulcan. Banished from the material realm by the relentless tenacity of the Lord of Drakes, Magnus would submit the last shred of his material body to assume the form of a true, immaterial demon.
Ooh, okay.
The War Master's rebellion would fail, and with the death of Horus Lupercal, the Thousand Sons and their traitor brethren would retreat to the Eye of Terror. As punishment for their failure, the Thousand Sons would once more be tormented by the flesh change through the influence of the Changer of Ways. Yet Chief Librarian Arzek Araman would attempt to abolish their curse once and for all. Casting the so-called Rubric of Araman, the Thousand Sons would be saved from their curse, yet pay a terrible price. The least psychically gifted sons of Magnus would be disintegrated from the vast tendrils of lightning that spewed forth from the Rubric, their bodies turned to ash inside their ceramite. Yet the armor of these unfortunate Astartes would not collapse, for the inert souls of the dead would allow the spectral Astartes to continue to serve their legion.
Ooh, that's meta.
The Rubric Marines would serve their now further empowered masters as mindless automatons, much to the horror of the Crimson King. Magnus would attempt to slay Ahriman, and would succeed, if not for the intervention of Tzeentch. The Cabal of Ahriman would be banished from the Thousand Sons, with their leader tasked with a great quest to uncover the true meaning of chaos. Fractured into several warbands of contrasting allegiances, the 15th Legion...
There's the warbands again. So, it really seems like the Traitor Legions just cannot get along, even with like their chapters or whatever inside, if they all want to splinter. So it makes sense though. Man, the one guy, the Janus guy, stealing a shard of Magnus and becoming something different. Well, actually, Janus was what he became. Don't really know a whole lot about him, but... And then Tzeentch putting the flesh change back on him. Do you guys... So, I don't know anything about what the actual flesh change is. He's mentioned it a number of times. It seems like a defect or something. If you guys can point me into the lore on that, that'd be great. Learn more about it. Because he is going into things. Maybe Remembrancer has a video about this. I'm not sure. I need to know more. More lore is the name of the game. The more we can consume and learn about this, like, we're expanding our knowledge, and I love it. It's great.
Legion now stalks the stars, in search of the mysteries and artifacts of the Immaterium. Invading the Eldar's Black Library and other repositories of knowledge for powerful spells and arcanum, the Thousand Sons now serve the whims of their curiosity, unfettered by Imperial oversight. Recruitment into the 15th Legion has always been a difficult task. Accepting only the most prodigious and promising psychers into their aspirants' ranks, the Thousand Sons' continual harrying of the flesh change would see constant need to replenish their number. By far the most susceptible to mutations of all the Astartes legions, the gene seed of the Thousand Sons would prove to be both a blessing and a curse. Further exacerbated by their allegiance to the Changer of Ways, there are few Astartes within the Legion who retain the gene seed of their Primarch due to the annihilation of swathes of their number by the Rubric of Ahriman. It is a source of immense pride within the Legion to have survived the countless abominable mutations and toils of battle unscathed, for the majority of the 15th now march into battle as soulless spectres of their former glory. Once drawing recruits from their homeworld of Prospero, with its destruction, the Thousand Sons seem incapable of replenishing their numbers through traditional means. Reports suggest that through fell rituals, the 15th Legion would resurrect their fallen battle brothers to inhabit living hosts.
Ooh.
Damned to never reach their former might of the days of the Great Crusade, the Thousand Sons number in the mere thousands to this day, with only a select few retaining bodies of flesh and blood. Bearing the colours of the immortal regiments of Old Earth's Achaemenid Empire, during the Wars of Unification, the 15th Legion would pride their Terran heritage. Their pauldrons bearing the coloration of the Achaemenid Empire and Nohian witchmark of Old Terra, centered with the symbol M. The Romani numeral of 1000 symbolizes their legion's chosen Astartes, handpicked by the Emperor. Supplanted with their reunion of their Primarch, the Thousand Sons would coat their armor with crimson, alike to their liege.
I was wondering, because they changed a number of times, it looks like. I know Horus changed his from, what was it, the Lunar Wolves to Sons of Horus. There was something else before that, and I forget what that was. Just because it was kind of a cursory, quick little thing. But yeah, they've changed their armor a number of times already.
Changing their Legion iconography with their relocation to Prospero, the 15th Legion would adopt a solar glyph in honor of their expanse into the stars. Bearing their loyalty to their Genefather with immense pride, the Thousand Sons would regardless once more renew their iconography with their ruinous descent into chaos. Adopting the blue and yellow livery in deference to their patron god, Tzeentch.
So that's where it came from, okay.
Their once disciplined uniform, ranking strictures, and conventions would be abandoned. Bearing the designs of their heraldry with elements of golden trim and azure blue, each warband of the 15th Legion would bear personal heraldry whilst maintaining uniformity to the colours of the Lord of Change. Bearing crowns and ornate crests upon their ceramite, alike to the pharaohs of ancient Earth, such ornamentation marks the Astartes of the Thousand Sons, not claimed by the rubric of Ahriman. Now bearing the symbol of Ouroboros upon their left pauldron, the Thousand Sons' depiction of the serpent, wreathed in flame, eating its own tail, espouses the Fallen Legion's adherence to the eternal cyclical nature of change and renewal.
Wow.
Their right pauldron displays their membership to the numerous sects of the Legion, whether they bear resemblance to the Changer of Ways, Magnus's Cyclopean visage, or the forgotten legacies of Prosperine culture. Utilizing runes of varying combinations to identify their membership of the disparate warbands of the 15th, the framing of their heraldry also identifies which squad each member of the Thousand Sons inhabits. Inscribed with magically potent inks crafted from rare materials, Astartes of the 15th also employ tabards of varying colours to denote their thrall band or squad. Though only the most devoted scholars of Tzeentch can truly comprehend the meaning of the enchanted markings of chaos.
What the hell was that thing? He had the Eye of Horus on him too, right on his belt buckle there.
Prior to their reunion with their Primarch, the Thousand Sons would organize their legion in similar manner to their Legiones Astartes counterparts. With Magnus installed as their leader, the Crimson King would organize fellowships of 1,000 Astartes into the legion, with 10 fellowships being active during their peak numerical strength of approximately 10,000 Astartes. With the catastrophic losses of the Kamenka Troika campaign, an entire fellowship would be lost, resulting in 9 fellowships to become the standard, known as the Pesajet. The commanders of the legion would form the Rahati, or Coven of Magnus, and captains of each fellowship would pilgrimage to their cousin legions to broaden their understanding of their brethren's favoured tactics and compliances. With revered captains such as Phocis Dakar seconded to the Lunar Wolves, the Thousand Sons would promote bonds of interlegion cooperation above and beyond their peers. With select individuals such as Hathor Mart rewarded an oath of moment from the Primarch of the 3rd Legion, Fulgrim, during his cooperation.
I do not like Fulgrim. He is a...
with the Emperor's Children Legion. Highly independent, due to their nature as a small legion, The most psychically gifted individuals would be installed to lead each squad as thrall wizards. Commanding Imperial Army regiments to bolster their numbers, the Thousand Sons would employ many specialized human regiments such as the Prosperine Guard, Prosperine Spire Guard, Zau Arkad Tugmata, Skyguard Air Command, Palatine Guards, and Personal Titan Legion, the Legio Zestobiacs. Forming specialized organizations within the 15th Legion, Magnus would champion elite cadres to enhance the effectiveness of his legion's psychic prowess. The Rahati, the inner coven of the Legion, would encompass the greatest sorcerers of the Legion. Similar to the position of Mournival within the Lunar Wolves Legion, the Rahati would be guarded by the elite Scarab Occult Terminators, known as the Sekhmet. Veterans of countless wars, Magnus's First Company veterans would fight not only with immense psychic might, but also the brutal fury of the Emperor's finest weapons and armor. Unquestioning in their devotion to the Rahati, the Great Khan of the White Scars and Gorgon of the Iron Hands would remark that the Sekhmet were little more than automatons.
Ooh.
The Hidden Ones would serve as the scout auxilia of the Legion.
So,
masters of infiltration and espionage, operatives of the Hidden Ones would gather intelligence for their Legion, whilst imprinting psychically reprogrammed sleeper cells within their enemies' ranks. Yet with the Thousand Sons fall to chaos, the organization of the Legion now falls squarely in the palm of the exalted sorcerers. The malevolent arcanists of the Thousand Sons that lord over their kin to no compassion or shame. Driven to accrue mastery and control of the Immaterium, the exalted sorcerers would become empowered by the deaths of their less fortunate kin. Commanding the hollowed husks of the Scarab Occult to serve their whims, the Lords of Dust and Ashes lead their phantom kin in campaigns across the stars.
how how horrible of a life would that be? You get essentially turned into dust in your armor, and then you're just an automaton because they fill your armor with either your life essence or a different life's essence. And then that's it. You're just a soldier with no brain, no thought, no nothing. I'm starting to like him a little less now. It was a fall from grace and some betrayal, and now I'm kind of like, this may be where I'm not a big fan.
Dreadnoughts of the Legion now skulk the material realm as hellbrutes of the ruinous powers. Intensely hated by the 15th Legion, the hellbrutes of the Legion hunger for pain and suffering, emotions anathema to the vast battalions of rubric marines. Recruiting naive Chaos Space Marines into the fold of the 15th, such pilgrims shall be promised vast powers of the warp for their service. Bound to the malevolent soul of the hellbrutes, these souls are sacrificed to the abominable ancients of the 15th to sate their need for eternal agony to fuel their machines of war. Requiring surplus forces to meet the needs of their deployments, the Thousand Sons also...
So those were demon engines. They're in Tacticus. I don't know anything about them. I just saw them and kind of was like, what the hell is that?
Employ demon engines such as Helldrakes, Defilers, Forge Fiends, and Mauler Fiends to bolster their ranks. Enslaving minor warp beings into their demon engines, the sorcerers of the 15th delight.
That's actually really cool artwork right there. It's got the Thousand Sons armor on him.
In their dominion over such terrifying creatures, and fuel their ego by deploying them as cannon fodder.
Oh.
During the years of the Great Crusade, the Thousand Sons would incorporate 5 cults of the Arcana in order to facilitate the will of their Primarch. Formed by the original members of the Crimson King's inner circle, known as the Rahati, each of the 5 cults would master a discipline of the Great Ocean. Maintaining headquarters within the Grand Pyramids of Tizca, each vanguard of the cults would contain repositories of knowledge adorned with the golden icon of their order. All save for the Pyre cult, whose pyramid would bear an endlessly burning flame, guarded by the warlord titan of the Legio Astorum, Canis Vertex. The Athanaean would specialize in telepathy and communications. Able to read the thoughts of others and communicate en masse across their legion, the Anatheian would prove crucial during the legion's compliances of worlds. Understanding their opposition's strategies as intimately as if written on a page of parchment, the Athanaean would undermine their enemies' deployments before they had even begun. The Corvidae would delve into the great ocean.
Oh, okay, so these are all like little, I heard it, but I wasn't sure what the hell he was talking about. So there's little factions in between the big faction, all trying to figure out different, or not figure out, but the disciplines are all different. I see. Okay.
To gain precognition and portents of the future. Seeing all possible futures outlined before them, the Corvidae would advise their counterpart brethren in the optimal progress of campaigns and skirmishes outlined by their divinations. The most preeminent of all the cults—
Wait a minute. But Zeech is the changer of ways, right? So you could see all the stuff, but it's not set in stone. It constantly goes, and if Zeech doesn't like you, doesn't he just switch it? And then you're screwed. Or if he just doesn't want to do that, or he just gets a wild hair and he's just like, just switch it. Does that account for anything? I don't know.
Of the Thousand Sons, their pedigree would nonetheless wane as the twisting nature of the warp diminished their foresight.
Okay.
The Pavoni would master the arts of psychokinesis, allowing them to manipulate the biological chemistry and physiology of both their kin and their enemies. Manipulating the physical characteristics of their visage and diminishing their physical need for hydration and other bodily ailments, the Pavoni would prove valuable in enhancing their legion's already superior health.
Okay.
Capable of generating lightning born from their innate bioelectrical nervous system, the impact of such energies would overwhelm the organs of their foes, causing their hearts to explode and raise the temperature of their blood to boiling point. Further aiding their legion's apothecaries as arcane healers, the Pavoni would accelerate the cellular growth of wounded battle brothers and allow for hastened redeployment of injured Astartes. The Pyrae harnessed pyrokinetic powers, enabling them to control warp-borne hellfire. Lethal when deployed among their legion, the Pyrae would also bear the capability of transforming their bodies to better unleash their torrents and projectiles of purging flame. Engulfing their enemies in fire, the Pyrae would also be proficient in manipulating and tampering with mechanical automata such as Titan Legios and the Legio Cybernetica.
Oh.
Known as technopathy, the Pyrae would undermine battle lines of war machines whilst laying a burning path for their battle brothers to thwart their enemies.
Betcha Mars doesn't like them.
Finally, the Raptora would practice the art of telekinesis by hurling objects and ripping enemies with their manipulation of matter.
Damn.
Capable of creating Kine shields to protect their battle brothers and tearing war machines and soldiers to pieces with their abilities, the Raptora would prove crucial during the Legion's defense of Prospero by collectively conjuring a Kine shield to protect their capital city of Tisca from orbital bombardment. Though outside of the 5 cults arcana, 2 more mysterious sects also existed within the Thousand Sons.
There's 2 more. I was gonna ask which which cult would you be in? I kind of like the fire one, or the oh, I already forgot the name. The one with the lightning. That looks cool. You could help heal people and then set their blood boiling and burst their heart.
The Amitara Occult Intercession Cabal, or Amitara Occult, would be shrouded in mystery. Acting in the name of the Order of the Blind, the Amitara would act as the masters of espionage and assassination.
Ooh, that's cool.
Their psychic might would be harnessed solely to mete out death to their enemies, firing long-range weaponry knowing the precise moment wherein their targets would inhabit the space of their shots, accelerating the flow of blood from their victims' wounds or enhancing the speed of their projectiles. The Amitara would hasten the demise of their targets and dub their technique as the Mind Killer. Also of note, the Kenetai Occult Blade Cabal would serve as guardians of the Prosperine cults. Sworn by both verbal and psychic oaths to defend the cults, The most venerated members of the Kenetai would form cabals known as Blades. Swordsmen of otherworldly mastery, these scions of swordcraft would be extensions of their weapons and wield psychocrystalline-infused force weapons inscribed with their wielder's secret name and deeds.
Ooh, okay.
Bearing armor forged by the blind master artificers of the Legion, the Blades would defend the cults with unified and deadly skill. In the wake of their fall to the clutches of chaos, the Thousand Sons would propagate their remaining sorcerous endeavors through the implementation of 9 greater cults within the Legion.
9 greater cults. There's just so much. Why is there so much?
Or Demon Prince bearing the rank of Magister Templar.
A Demon Prince or a Sorcerer is leading the cults. How many Demon Princes are there? I thought the Primarchs were just the Demon Princes. That's interesting. That's worthy of more research right there.
Their lieutenants shall carry out the will of each great cult in the name of their master. United in purpose, these bands of miscreant magisters enable the schemes of their patron god and corrupt the very fabric of real space with their deeds.
Why does he have 4 arms?
The cult of change would unravel and harness the rejection of order and be tasked with bringing compliance to anarchic and rebellious civilizations. The cult of duplicity employ deceit as an unknowable and Machiavellian force. The cult of knowledge seek to claim all tomes.
I like this picture. He's just reading a book in power armor. You gotta leave it on when you go read books in the library. You can't ever take your power armor off.
Of eldritch teachings across the stars and identify the weaknesses in their foes through harnessing their secrets. The cult of magic unleash their full might in sorcery with no restriction of its power. Obtaining arcane objects in the possession of their foes, the cult of magic seek the purest devastation by means of the warp. The cult of manipulation enthrall their enemies and sow both mortal and demonic spies into the ranks of their opposition.
Man.
Wreaking havoc from within, the cult of manipulation orchestrate complex plots brought to fruition through means of assassination and demonic possession.
Assassination and demonic possession. That's pretty metal. So you end up killing somebody and or making them possessed, which makes them kill other people. That's good. That's cool.
The cult of mutation.
I don't like that staff. I do not like that staff. It has eyes on it. I do not like it.
Transform their bodies and space around themselves by embracing the cursed flesh change.
The flesh change. Look at all the tentacles coming out of that guy. That's, ugh. I don't like it.
Transmuting entire planets into demon worlds, the souls of these unfortunate civilizations are turned into grotesque abominations, twisted by the manifestations of the warp. The cult of prophecy pursue the threads of fate whispered from the fabric of the immaterium. Divining the destiny most befitting their ambitions, the cult of prophecy twists their destiny for their own selfish whims. The cult of scheming concoct intricate campaigns as a form of perverse worship. Reveling in their scheming, the cult orchestrate grand plans of tactical maneuvers and feints in order to achieve grand and complex conquests. The cult of time view the flow of the past.
There's a lot of cults. The cult of time.
Present and future as a resource to be harnessed. Engaging their enemies in both the past and present simultaneously.
Okay, so that's cool right there. They can split up and go back in the present and the past, the future, and mess some stuff up. That's actually pretty cool. It's a pretty cool way to fight somebody. I'm going to get you now, and actually later, I'm going to go back in time and mess with you some more. And you're not even going to know what's happening. Maybe I'll go in the future, too. You're going to regret ever messing with me.
The cult of time sow the seeds of defeat into their foes' actions, long before they even draw their weapons. As Masters of Arcanum, despite their small number, each Astartes of the Thousand Sons is a powerful warrior in his own right. Unwilling to battle in close combat when able to cast their warp-spawn sorceries, the Thousand Sons fight with guile and deceit in order to gain advantage in battle. Instilled with an independent nature by the teachings of their Primarch, each sorcerer of the 15th Legion lead detachments of rubric automatons into battle. Prior to their fall during the Horus Heresy, the less psychically gifted members of the Legion would march into battle wielding ether fire cannons, toxin-infused asphyx shells, and conventional bolters. Now empowered by the manipulations of Tzeentch, the Thousand Sons employ a variety of disciplines in battle, including the Disciples of Chance, Sinistrum, Geomortis, Heretic, Ectomancy, Dark Hereticus, and Discipline of Tzeentch. Arming their rubric marines with fell weapons such as Inferno bolters, Soul Reaper cannons, Hellfire missile packs, and Warp flamers, the armies of the 15th Legion incinerate their foes with otherworldly, purging flame.
I can say this about their armor. It is pretty cool. I really like it. I'm still not like 100% on the magic part of it. And maybe it's the deceit part too. I don't know how much I like that either. But their armor is certainly cool. The fact that that one guy could go back in time, and they're that cult, I should say, not guy, cult, can go back in time. I like that. I like that. And I like that they have specific cults for like assassinations, changing people, corruption, whatever. That's kind of cool too. This picture is amazing.
Further bolstered with icons of the ruinous powers, such as the Icon of Flame, each Thrall band and greater cult bolsters their potent sorceries by employing 9 lieutenants among their ranks to gain the favor of their patron god through his favored number. Fractured
Is it
with
9?
the failure
Is his favorite number 9? Just thinking.
of the War Master to destroy the Imperium, the Thousand Sons roam the galaxy as largely autonomous warbands. Thrall bands led by minor Chaos Sorcerers and lesser Chaos Champions of the Magister Templi hound the Imperium, such as the Blades of Magnus, Tizken Host, Brothers of Retaliation, Warband of Sektoth, Prism of Fate, and Sektai Prosperin. Estranged Sons of Magnus also voyage as shards of the Legion's former glory. Bearing sigils of their past, the Brotherhood of Dust, Crimson Sons, Prodigal Sons, Silver Sons, Red Echo, Warpgeists, and Grand Order of Hermetic Blades seek penance for their past transgressions. The more notable of these remnants of the 15th gain glories befitting their superior strength, as warbands recognized by their Genefather. The Rahati War Sect comprise the assembled might of Magnus's chosen sons, inhabiting the planet of the Sorcerers.
So they all broke off and created their own war bands to do their own things because they have their own cults. That's it's not very efficient, I guess, but if they don't want to get along, that's fine. That's fine. It's kind of like this is the same thing as with the Night Lords. They broke off into smaller war bands and became mercenaries in some spaces, just doing their own thing because they don't have a Primarch. Is Magnus still around? I feel like he's a demon. He's still around.
Supremely powerful, the Rahati War Sect are named after the once bodyguards of Magnus the Red.
Ooh.
Commanded by their Primarch personally, the various demon princes of Tzeentch and veteran Astartes of the Legion carry out the will of Magnus as his most powerful and loyal subjects. The War Covens harness the primal element of battle into spells of prodigious potency. Remolding the very fabric of reality to their whims, the War Covens are a deadly threat to all life among the stars in their pursuit of forbidden, arcane secrets.
These guys really like reading books in power armor. It's kind of strange. I love that artwork though. His little his side shoulder armor has a face in it. That's actually really cool when you look at the detail of it.
The War Cabals are the shadow of the Legion's former glory. Conquering the civilizations once under their own protection, the weapons of the War Cabals sunder their former dependencies as an act of vengeful scorn. The Sekhmet Conclave amass great power, led by ancient warriors of the 15th, commanding the thralls of the once noble Scarab Occult Terminators. Imbuing the hulking bodyguards with warp energies and sorcerous wards, the overlords of the Sekhmet Conclave unleash the fury of their Terminators to bring their enemies to heel.
I know that it's hard for Chaos to get new armor and stuff, but the Terminators specifically, because that was a newer plate that they had made, at least in the Horus Heresy, so obviously they're not getting their new stuff from Mars or wherever. They have to find it and or hang on to it. So that's interesting. The
Sangor Warherd deploy
the artwork is just so amazing all the time.
Mutated beastmen into battle under the control of their master.
I think that's the other thing I don't like about it is the mutation part of it. I know that, like, what was that other one we looked at just recently? I'm having a moment here. World Eaters. Those guys are like mostly warp changed. And for some reason, I don't mind that. Maybe it's because they're not doing the tentacle thing that I've seen so much in the artwork for these guys. For the Thousand Sons. I don't know. Ugh.
Resurrecting the carrion spoils of battle, the necromantic sorcerers delight in reanimating the corpses of their fallen foes. Making trophies from the dead, the avaricious beastmen and their patrons tear their foes limb from limb in order to sate their hunger for trophies and trinkets. And last but by no means least of these warbands are Ahriman's exiles.
Ahriman. He's in Tacticus. He is a character in Tacticus, like the legendary guy you can get.
Led by the first captain of the Thousand Sons, Arzek Ahriman, the banished Astartes under the command of Magnus's former equerry seek knowledge of the warp to earn their redemption. Rallying disparate and disgraced commanders of his legion, Ahriman calls upon the diminished brotherhood of his kin in order to destroy their enemies. Shrouded in bitter, vengeful zeal, the exiles of the 15th Legion shall not relent in their quest to master the powers of the warp and renew their patronage of their Genefather. Yet the tides of the warp are vast and unknowable, and many believe the toil of the exile shall be mired in blood and ashes, forever damned to hunger for knowledge that can never be sated. Show me a living soul that believes that he has choice in anything, and I will show you the universe's greatest fool. This has been a tale.
Wow. The Remembrancer just always does such a great job. Okay. The Thousand Sons. I'm going to be honest with you, not my favorite Legion so far. I like their armor. I like the way it looks. Magnus did wrong. He was bad. He did wrong things. Unfortunately, trying to do good things, but bad things happened. So it's kind of like, I feel away. I feel like it was a mistake. He did do something wrong, but you could learn from your mistake, but now it's a little late because he's a demon. The Legion is cool. I don't like the deceit part of it. I think that's kind of maybe where I'm at with that. Those are my feelings I'm getting off it. The magic thing, the mutation thing, and then the like being deceitful and backstabbery, all that kind of stuff. I don't feel that very well. Like, it doesn't connect with me. But I can admit that they are cool as hell, and I would be worried about going up against them due to all the stuff, all the trickery and whatever. That one part, and I keep talking about it, but that one part where it was a cult, those guys could fight simultaneously in the present and the past to try to really mess with um, their opponents. That was pretty cool. All the mutation stuff aside, though, I mean, I like them to. I might want to do more research into these guys and deeper dive than what we just did. That was kind of, it seemed like an overview. Maybe I'd like them a little further. Obviously, once I get into more of the Warhammer books, if we can get, because I think there has to be a book for Magnus on talking about him a little bit more than this too. I might like that as well. I mean, all in all, it's not horrible. It's just not my cup of tea, I think, at least at this present time. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one. Make sure you subscribe to Remembrancer if you're not already there. All the links will be in the description. Have a great day. I'll catch you in the next one.